There's a very specific kind of thrill that only speedrunning can offer. It's not just about beating a game quickly. It's about beating the game itself, dissecting it, manipulating it, bending it until it breaks under the weight of human obsession. If gaming is art, speedrunning is the most chaotic kind of art restoration project, one, where people joyfully rip the canvas in half and find a shortcut through the frame. But this wasn't always a thing. In fact, the evolution of speedrunning, from bedroom competitions to full-blown live marathons, is one of the most fascinating and weirdly wholesome stories in internet culture. It's a blend of obsession, community, competition, and discovery, with just a dash of why would anyone do this energy. Let's rewind to the beginning. No, not just to the early 2000s, but way back to the days of arcade machines. Even before speedrunning was a word, the concept of finishing a game as fast as possible was already baked into the DNA of arcade culture. Games like Donkey Kong or Pac-Man had players trying to not just survive, but to push their performance to the absolute limit. But because arcades weren't built for people to beat games quickly, more like to eat quarters endlessly, the earliest examples of true speed-focused play came with home consoles. One of the first landmark moments in proto-speedrunning came from the game Metroid. Released in 1986, Metroid didn't just reward players for finishing the game. It gave them different endings depending on how fast they completed it. For the era, that was groundbreaking. Suddenly, speed wasn't just an internal flex. It was something the game acknowledged and celebrated. You weren't just a player. You were Samus. And if you were good enough, the game rewarded you with the big reveal. Samus wasn't just some faceless space bounty hunter. She was a woman, in a helmet, in a leotard, in pixels. And it was glorious. This set the tone. Developers started to realize that players like to be fast. Games like The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. Became hotbeds for informal time chasing. Word spread slowly through friends and magazines of new techniques. Maybe you could warp in Mario. Maybe you could bomb jump through a wall in Zelda. But it wasn't until the late 90s and early 2000s that the speedrunning community as we know it began to form. And it all kicked off with a little something called Doom. When Doom launched in 1993, it wasn't just revolutionary for its demon-blasting, blood-spraying chaos. It also came with the ability to record demos replays of your gameplay. Suddenly, players weren't just telling each other about their fast times, they were proving it. Doom's community began to trade these demos, creating a grassroots, pre-YouTube archive of speed. The website Compat-N became a hub for these records, and even had different categories like UV Speed and Pacifist. Yes, Pacifist, as in completing Doom without killing anything. Just vibing through hell. Incredible. Then came Quake, and its spiritual successor in the speed scene, Quake Done Quick. This was more than just a fast run. It was a full-game speed run stitched together from individual level runs and uploaded as a video. The release of Quake Done Quick in 1997 on the burgeoning internet was huge. For the first time, you didn't need the game to see the run. You could watch the whole thing as a video, setting the stage for YouTube, Twitch, and all the content that would come next. The 2000s saw speedrunning begin to coalesce into a true scene. Sites like Speed Demos Archive became ground zero for verified runs and marathon streams. SDA required rigorous verification, with runs often needing to be recorded on VHS tapes and mailed in. That's right, physical tapes. You had to speedrun the post office just to get your run reviewed. But the big bang moment came in 2010, when the first Games Done Quick Marathon was held. What started as a small charity stream quickly exploded into one of the most beloved recurring events in gaming. Awesome Games Done. Quick and its summer sibling SGDQ raised millions for causes like cancer research and Doctors Without Borders. The appeal was obvious. People love watching masters destroy their favorite games in ways they never imagined. It was equal parts skill showcase and performance art, often wrapped in the warmth of community memes and inside jokes. By the 2010s, Twitch had entered the chat. And with it, the speedrunning scene underwent another transformation. Suddenly, runs were live. Audiences could cheer on the heart-pounding, controller-gripping tension in real time. Players no longer had to grind in solitude. They could stream every attempt, every failed trick, every soul-crushing reset. Communities sprang up around specific games, nurturing runners, discovering new strats, and pushing times lower and lower. What's amazing is how diverse the scene became. There's not just one way to speedrun. There's any percent, where you just get to the end as fast as possible, glitches and all. There's 100%, which requires collecting every item. There's low percent, where you do as little as possible. There are meme categories like all dog percent in Undertale or oven percent in Breath of the Wild. Yes, that's a thing. The community constantly reinvents itself. And then, of course, there's the glitches. Glitches are the secret sauce of speedrunning. They're what turn a 2-hour game into a 12-minute masterpiece. From out-of-bounds warps, to zip glitches, to arbitrary code execution, where players literally rewrite the game on the fly using controller inputs. This is where speedrunning borders on sorcery. You haven't lived until you've watched someone beat Super Mario World by summoning the end credits from nothing but a few well-placed Koopa shells. But speedrunning isn't just about technical wizardry. It's about persistence, the grind, the resets, the obsession with shaving off tenths of a second. It's about mastery, creativity, and even philosophy. What counts as a valid run? Should you use glitches? What if a trick requires perfect inputs over 4 hours? Does that make it more valid or just more masochistic? These questions fuel debates, but also growth. Speedrunning also reveals something profound about how we engage with games. It flips the relationship. Instead of consuming a game passively, speedrunners dissect it. They learn its memory, its architecture, its seams. They turn games into puzzles the developers never intended. And in doing so, they keep those games alive. A game like Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time isn't just nostalgia fodder. It's a living, evolving challenge. A 25-year-old game can still produce new discoveries and new records. That's magic. Even developers have started to pay attention. Some games now include built-in timers, speedrun modes, or even embrace speed strats in design. Titles like Celeste and Neon White were practically born to be speedrun. It's a feedback loop. Runners influence games, and games influence runners. And at the heart of it all is a community that's welcoming, passionate, and often hilariously self-aware. Speedrunning is serious, but never takes itself too seriously. Whether you're a record chaser or just a fan of watching a beloved childhood game get completely annihilated, there's a place for you. Speedrunning isn't just about speed. It's about depth, about digging into a game until there's nothing left to discover, then finding something new anyway. It's about patience, passion, and breaking things just to see how far you can go. In a world obsessed with consuming things fast, speedrunning is a strange paradox. A world where the fastest players are also the most dedicated, methodical, and weirdly romantic. So the next time you see someone playing Tetris so fast their screen looks like a digital seizure, or watching a run of Dark Souls beaten blindfolded, remember, this isn't just about beating a timer. It's about beating expectations, about pushing the limits of what's possible. And in a way, that's the purest form of gaming there is.